Beloved soul, you did not stumble upon this message by accident. There is a divine hand at work, a heavenly orchestration that has brought these words to your attention at precisely this moment. Every circumstance that led you here, every step of your journey, every season of waiting or struggle was not random. Heaven has been arranging your path, quietly guiding you toward this awakening. And now, you are ready to hear what was always meant for you. This is your appointed moment, your Kairos time, where the veil lifts just enough for you to see that you were never forgotten, never overlooked, and never abandoned. God's timing is perfect, even when it feels invisible to the eyes of the world. You have come through the fire, not unscathed, but refined. Every challenge you faced, every heartache and trial, every lonely moment and silent tear has shaped you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient than you may realize. You are standing on sacred ground, even if the world around you does not acknowledge it. This is holy territory, a place of transformation that cannot always be measured by external results or applause. Sometimes, the most profound change happens quietly away from the noise and the recognition in the hidden corners of your heart and soul. Transformation does not always arrive with fanfare or dramatic shifts. Often it comes through these small, consistent acts of courage and faith. Getting up when you felt heavy, persevering when hope seemed distant, choosing love and grace when bitterness whispered. Be still and know that He is God. Psalm 46:10. In the midst of busyness, distractions, and the constant rush of life, stillness becomes the lens through which the invisible work of God can be seen. Do not doubt the quiet victories that have passed unnoticed. Do not discount the ways you have grown without realizing it. You did not miss your moment. You did not fail to change. All along, God has been at work within you, forming, preparing, and awakening the heart of a chosen one, ready for the fullness of what He has been orchestrating. Today, that hidden preparation begins to reveal itself, and you are invited to step fully into the sacred reality of who you have become. When you reflect on the prayers you have lifted, you may have expected answers to arrive neatly packaged or immediate. Yet God rarely answers in ways we anticipate. Strength is not handed to us on a silver platter. It is forged through the mountains we are called to climb. Every challenge, every seemingly insurmountable obstacle is an opportunity to discover the resilience already planted within your soul. The growth that comes from scaling steep paths cannot be replicated by ease or comfort. What feels like struggle is often the divine method of awakening strength you did not know you possessed. Love, too, is cultivated through the seasons of heartbreak and the quiet moments of self-discovery. When you ask for love, it may not have arrived in the form of another person or an instant fulfillment of desire. Instead, God allowed the ache of absence, the lessons of disappointment, and the mirror of your own heart to teach you how to love yourself the way He loves you, unconditionally, deeply, and without compromise. This is the love that can sustain you through the storms, the love that does not falter when life becomes uncertain. Abundance is another example of divine formation. It does not always manifest as immediate overflow. Often, it is the drought, the period of waiting and scarcity that teaches gratitude, faith, and the fullness of spirit. These are the qualities that transform temporary provision into enduring wealth. Wealth of character, of heart, of purpose. This is how God creates warriors, not by shielding them from hardship, but by allowing them to grow through it. Trials, as James reminds us, produce perseverance, and perseverance shapes a spirit capable of carrying responsibility, blessing, and vision. You have not been broken. You have been refined. Every moment of difficulty, every tear, every silent effort has been the crucible through which your character was formed. You are emerging, not as someone defeated, but as someone strengthened, resilient, and prepared to inherit the promises you have long hoped for. You have endured seasons that no one witnessed, trials that passed without applause, and moments of refining that felt invisible to the world. Every quiet struggle, every silent tear, every internal battle you fought has been a sacred preparation, unseen, but never unnoticed. God has been watching all along, and He calls those hidden moments holy. The nights you wept in solitude, the mornings you rose when despair pressed heavily upon your spirit, were not wasted. They were the secret forge where your identity was being shaped, where your readiness was being cultivated. In the silence and the stillness, God was speaking to the depths of your soul, teaching you that endurance is not measured by recognition, but by faithfulness. Now, as you stand on the threshold of this next chapter, it is time to declare with boldness and conviction, I am ready. Not because the path ahead is fully visible or entirely clear, but because you have been prepared. You have been trained, refined, and strengthened in ways that no one else could see, and God's confidence in you has never wavered. This is a moment of claiming the identity that has been forming quietly within you, an identity not defined by past failures, doubts, or delays, but by the divine work that has been unfolding in secret. This declaration is more than words. It is an alignment of heart, mind, and spirit with the truth of who you have become. And as you affirm your readiness, I invite you to stay fully present for the closing prayer that follows. That prayer is not just a ritual. It is a sealing of your transformation, a commissioning of the new season that is opening before you. What you are stepping into now is not the end of your journey. It is the becoming, the emergence of the fullness of your identity, the stepping into the promises and blessings that God has been carefully orchestrating for you all along.
After the storms have passed, after the trials that tested every fiber of your being, there comes a final shift, not of striving, not of pushing harder, but of surrender. Many believe that blessings are earned through effort, that God's favor comes only after one more struggle, one more display of strength. Yet the divine truth is far deeper. The greatest blessings are entrusted to those who have learned to yield to release control and to trust in God's perfect timing. Surrender is not weakness. It is the conscious posture of a heart ready to receive what only God can give. True blessings require more than desire. They require maturity, humility, and wisdom. They are not handed randomly or indiscriminately. God does not distribute his treasures to unready hands. Every season of preparation, even those that felt heavy or painful, has been carefully designed to cultivate the qualities necessary to carry what is coming. The waiting, the refinement, the unseen trials were never punishment. They were a sacred curriculum, a shaping of your heart and soul into a vessel capable of holding honor, abundance, and responsibility without breaking under their weight. Faith in this season may feel fragile because the mind does not always understand the method behind the process. Yet faith says, even when comprehension falters, I don't understand, but I trust. It echoes the spirit of Joseph, who after betrayal, imprisonment, and years of silence, could stand before those who wronged him and declare, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Genesis 50:20. That perspective transforms suffering into preparation, delay into alignment, and pain into purpose. The final shift, beloved soul, is the invitation to move from relentless striving to quiet trust. It is the sacred readiness to carry what God has been preparing in secret. This surrender opens the door to blessings that are not fleeting or fragile, but enduring and profound, flowing to you, because you are now at last ready to receive, with a heart refined, faithful, and fully aligned with heaven's design. The work of God is often unseen, unfolding in quiet preparation, long before the world witnesses the results. Living by vision beyond what is visible requires patience and trust, a faith that perceives the hand of God in ways that eyes alone cannot discern. While you may have wondered if your efforts were in vain, if your waiting was meaningless, or if your prayers had been heard at all, God was quietly, meticulously aligning your life. He does not simply open doors for a glimpse of blessing. He aligns entire seasons, entire pathways, and every intricate detail of your existence to prepare you for the fullness of what is coming. During times of delay, it is natural to feel doubt creep in, to measure your progress against others, and fall into comparison. The world tempts you to believe that time spent waiting is wasted, that silence is neglect, and that unanswered prayers are failure. Yet these distortions are only the fog of perception. God is not offended by your questions, nor does he diminish your struggles. He understands the tension of uncertainty, the wrestling with doubt, and the yearning for clarity. Even in moments when it feels as though nothing is moving, he is at work behind the scenes, orchestrating alignment that is invisible to the hurried eye, but perfectly timed according to his wisdom. Every decision you made, every step you took in obedience, even when unnoticed or unrewarded,
has been part of this divine preparation. While you wondered if you had missed something, or if life was passing you by, God was shaping circumstances, refining your character, and building pathways that only He could navigate. What appears as quiet or delayed is actually the precision of divine timing, the unseen architecture of your destiny. Your readiness today is the result of all those unseen moments, and the blessings waiting to unfold are the evidence of God's meticulous care, patience, and sovereign alignment in your life.
One of the clearest proofs that you have passed the test is found in the choices you made when no one was watching. Every time you walked away from situations, relationships, or opportunities that were not meant for you, even when it hurt you, demonstrated discernment and faithfulness. These moments of letting go were not failures or signs of weakness. They were sacred acts of alignment with God's plan, clearing space for the blessings that were waiting for you. Walking away in obedience rather than clinging out of fear or desire is evidence that your spirit is maturing, that you are becoming the vessel God intended you to be. Choosing healing over bitterness is another indicator of your transformation. When the pain of betrayal, disappointment, or loss pressed down, you could have allowed it to harden your heart. Yet each time you forgave, released, and chose to love, even in small ways, you proved that your spirit was stronger than your circumstances. Rest over burnout and forgiveness over blame were not always easy, but they were necessary. Each conscious decision to prioritize peace, integrity, and grace has been a silent victory, a step toward embodying the identity God has been shaping within you. Life has a way of repeating tests until the lesson is learned. Yet here you stand at a different place, no longer trapped in cycles of trial, but on the threshold of something new. You have emerged refined, resilient, and prepared. The lessons that once demanded your patience, courage, and faith have now been internalized. You are no longer surviving. You are poised to thrive. This threshold marks the transition from trial to triumph. It is a sacred boundary between the refining process and the full unfolding of your purpose. The evidence of your growth is unmistakable. The quiet strength in your decisions, the peace in your choices, and the clarity of vision for the path ahead. You have passed, not because the trials disappeared, but because you chose faithfulness amidst them. And now the promise of what God has prepared is ready to meet you. As you reflect on the journey you have endured, you may begin to notice subtle yet profound shifts in the way you carry yourself. There's a quiet confidence now, a strength that no longer seeks validation from the world, because it has been forged in the fire of divine refinement. You walk differently, speak differently, and even perceive differently, because you have been transformed from the inside out. This is the evidence of an embodied identity, one that no longer fights to be recognized or understood, but simply exists in the fullness of who God created you to be. You no longer chase after approval or wrestle with the question of your worth. The struggle to prove your identity has ended because you have become it. The prayers you once whispered in longing, the desires you once held with hope, have shaped you in ways that words cannot fully capture. The goal of your journey was never solely the blessing itself. It was the formation of the vessel capable of holding that blessing without breaking under its weight. Every tear, every sacrifice, every act of patience and perseverance has contributed to this sacred preparation. You are being molded not just to receive, but to steward and sustain what is to come. God entrusted you with fire, not because He wanted to see you suffer, but because He trusted the outcome. He knew that through trials, you would develop the strength, wisdom, and resilience required to handle His promises with integrity. Every challenge, every quiet moment of endurance was a deliberate shaping of your character, preparing you to carry the weight of purpose and the fullness of His plan. You are now the vessel refined, steady, and aligned, ready to walk in the identity and purpose that were always intended for you. The blessing was never the final destination. Becoming who God intended you to be is the ultimate triumph. There are seasons in life when it feels as though every door is closed, every prayer goes unanswered, and every hope is met with silence. It is in these moments that the human heart can easily misinterpret what is truly happening. You may have questioned whether God had forgotten you, whether your faith was in vain, or whether the promises you once held close were slipping through your fingers. Yet what often appears as silence is not abandonment. It is a season of divine development. God works in ways that are hidden, preparing you in the quiet, refining you in the waiting, and aligning every detail that will eventually make the blessings unmistakable.
Doubt can creep in during these silent seasons, often disguised as logic. You may have wondered if your expectations were too high, if your prayers had been misguided, or if your hopes were unrealistic. It is easy to let reason overshadow faith, to allow uncertainty to erode the patience and trust that have carried you this far. Others may have minimized your journey, dismissing your struggles, or reducing the depth of your experience to simplistic advice or empty reassurances. Yet their lack of understanding does not diminish the work God has been doing in your life. You were not ignored, you were entrusted. Every moment of waiting, every choice to persevere, every quiet act of obedience has been recognized in heaven. The weight you felt, the heaviness of delay, the pressure of uncertainty, the tension of unanswered prayers was never a sign of failure. It was the weight of glory being placed upon you, shaping you into someone capable of carrying the extraordinary life that awaits. What seemed like emptiness was actually preparation. What felt like delay was actually divine timing. Every closed door was a redirection. Every unanswered prayer, a calibration, ensuring that when the fullness of your destiny arrives, you will be ready to receive it with wisdom, strength, and grace.
Some of the most profound transformation in your life has occurred in moments when you felt most vulnerable, when it seemed like collapse was possible. Strength is forged not in comfort or ease, but in the heat of trials, in the quiet hours, when endurance feels impossible. Every challenge that pressed you to your limits, every circumstance that threatened to overwhelm, was a deliberate shaping of your spirit. God used those moments to build resilience that could not have been formed any other way. Love, too, was revealed in the spaces where absence and loss once seemed unbearable. When relationships ended, when support vanished, and when hearts were broken, you were given the opportunity to encounter a love that never fails. God's presence filled the voids left by others, teaching you to love deeply, wisely, and unconditionally, first in yourself and then in others. Through these seasons, you discovered that true love is not measured by presence alone, but by constancy, faithfulness, and the ability to give without expectation. Abundance, likewise, was often formed in the midst of drought. When resources were scarce, when joy felt distant, and when provision seemed delayed, you were learning to rely not on circumstance, but on gratitude, faith, and the fullness of spirit. These seasons were not punishments. They were divine classrooms in which character discernment and perseverance were cultivated. The real test was hidden in everyday obedience, showing up making small but faithful choices, and remaining steadfast in the mess when no one else noticed. It was in these quiet acts of faithfulness that you proved your readiness. Loneliness, once felt as a burden, became the soil for deep intimacy with God. In isolation, you learned to hear His voice more clearly, to trust His guidance, and to find your identity anchored not in people or circumstances, but in the one who formed you in secret. Through loss, absence, and quiet endurance, you were being refined into a vessel capable of carrying strength, love, and abundance with wisdom and grace. The journey you have endured, the fires you have walked through, and the trials you have faced have all served a sacred purpose to prepare you for this very moment. What once made you feel different, out of place, or too much for the world is no longer a burden. It has become sacred. The very qualities that once isolated you, that once felt like a weight or a flaw, are now the markers of your divine design. You have been forged by fire, refined through pressure, and strengthened in the silence. Your soul is steady, resilient, and ready to receive all that God has been preparing for you. As you step into this new season, the blessings that arrive will feel natural, right, and aligned with the deepest parts of your being. They will not always be flashy, dramatic, or immediately recognizable to others, but they will resonate with the truth of who you have become. You will recognize them because your heart has been attuned through every season of waiting endurance and faithful obedience. The timing will feel perfect because you have been shaped to hold what is coming without being overwhelmed and to steward it with wisdom and humility. This is the moment of sacred readiness, the threshold where becoming transforms into being. You no longer exist in a state of preparation or uncertainty. You have passed the tests, endured the refining, and proven your faithfulness in the quiet, unobserved moments. What you once longed for, prayed for, and hoped to receive has already shaped you. You did not miss it. You did not fall short. You became it. Every tear,
Every act of perseverance, every moment of faithfulness has been accounted for and sanctified. Today, you are marked, sealed, and fully equipped to embrace the fullness of your identity, your purpose, and the blessings that God has been orchestrating for your life. You are no longer in transition. You are ready.
Every tear you have cried, every scar you have carried, every moment of quiet perseverance has not been wasted. The struggles, the waiting, the long seasons of unseen effort were all part of God's perfect orchestration. Now the hidden work of your life is ready to move from the private to the visible. Doors that you never knocked on, rooms you never imagined entering, and opportunities you thought had passed you by are beginning to open. This is the harvest of alignment, not luck, not coincidence, but the divine result of faithfulness and obedience in the unseen. Favor is flowing toward you in a way that is unmistakable because it is rooted in alignment. The preparation, the refinement, the patient endurance of every test has positioned you perfectly to receive it. What appears sudden or effortless to the world is actually the culmination of years of divine strategy, moments of faithfulness and quiet obedience that no one else could have witnessed or understood. God is honoring you publicly, not to prove anyone wrong, but to prove himself right. Every blessing, every recognition, every opportunity that now manifests is evidence of his faithfulness, his wisdom, and his sovereignty over your life. With public honor comes responsibility. The blessings you are receiving are not just for personal gain or temporary pleasure. They are entrusted to you for stewardship, for influence, and for the expansion of the purpose God has placed within you. You are being called to walk in integrity, humility, and wisdom, managing what has been given with care and discernment. This is the sacred transition from being hidden to being visible, from preparation to manifestation. Heaven has seen every quiet step, every whispered prayer, every act of faithfulness in the darkness. Now, it is time for what was hidden to be revealed, for the fruit of your obedience to be harvested, and for your life to testify to the faithfulness of God in ways that others cannot deny. Readiness is rarely about perfection. It is not about never feeling doubt, never making mistakes, or never experiencing fear. True readiness is rooted in trust, the unwavering confidence that God is going before you, preparing the way and aligning every detail of your life according to his divine plan. As Deuteronomy 31:8 reminds us, the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. It is this promise that forms the foundation of confidence, not in your own abilities, but in the presence and guidance of the one who has carried you through every season. You no longer need to shrink, hide, or apologize for the strength you have cultivated in the fire of testing. You no longer need to explain how you survived, how you persevered, or why you kept faith when it would have been easier to give up. The endurance, resilience, and wisdom you carry are the visible signs of your preparation, and they are more than enough to navigate the unfolding chapters of your life. Your readiness is not measured by what you have perfected, but by the trust you have placed in God throughout the journey. The story of your life, once fragmented by trials, uncertainty, and delayed promises, is now coming together. Every experience, every hardship, every silent act of faithfulness has contributed to a tapestry of purpose and blessing. What once seemed disconnected or confusing now begins to reveal its coherence and divine intention. You stand in the sacred convergence of past preparation and future promise. Confidence is no longer aspirational, it is present. Trust is no longer tentative, it is active. You are ready, not because everything is perfect, but because God has equipped you with the presence, the wisdom, and the courage to step boldly into the fulfillment of all he has been orchestrating in your life. Having passed the test, your life is now called to reflect the truth of what has already been accomplished in your spirit. You are no longer in a season of striving, chasing approval, or proving yourself to the world. Instead, you are invited to live with the confidence that the blessing is already unfolding. Each choice, each action, and each small act of obedience carries eternal significance far beyond what you can see. Folding laundry with love, preparing a meal with care, sending an encouraging word, These ordinary moments become extraordinary when they are stewarded with faith. Living as one who has passed the test requires prioritizing presence over performance. The world often equates value with visibility, speed, or achievement, but God measures faithfulness in the quiet, unobserved moments. Hiddenness, far from being a limitation, is actually a form of protection. It is where God prepares you without distraction, allowing your character to be refined before the spotlight arrives. This is where depth is cultivated, where trust is strengthened, and where the life you have been called to lead is silently formed. Peace, consistency, and quiet confidence become your testimony, preaching louder than words ever could. You no longer need to announce your growth, justify your progress, or explain your journey. Your life itself, steady, intentional, anchored in faith, declares the faithfulness of God. By choosing obedience, maintaining humility, and walking in integrity, you embody the reality of one who has endured the refining fire and emerged ready for purpose. Now is the time to steward your life as a sacred vessel, to reflect the divine work within you, and to live fully aware that the blessings you have been prepared for are not only coming, they are here in motion. Your presence, faithfulness, and quiet perseverance are the evidence that you have passed the test and are now entrusted with all that God has been orchestrating for your life. As we arrive at the conclusion of this sacred message, it is time to seal what has been spoken over your life through prayer, alignment, and commissioning. Take a moment to quiet your heart, to release every burden, and to open yourself fully to the presence of God. This is a prayer of gratitude, of recognition for every valley you have endured, every delay that tested your patience, and every hidden test that refined your character. All of it has been part of a divine design, shaping you into a vessel capable of carrying the fullness of God's glory. Heaven sees what others miss. It sees the nights you persevered, when exhaustion threatened to overtake you, the moments you chose healing over bitterness, and the times you trusted in silence when the world expected action. Today we break every lie that told you were behind, that you had missed your moment, or that your efforts were in vain. We declare together that you are not late, not forgotten, not forsaken. You are chosen, prepared, and entrusted with purpose. You are a steward of glory, ready to walk boldly in the identity God has been forming within you. As we lift our voices in unity, we say, we are ready. To seal this declaration, type Amen in the comments, a tangible affirmation that you receive this word and embrace the calling upon your life. Let this community be a reminder that you are not alone. You are among the called, the hidden, and the faithful. Subscribe to remain connected to this space of encouragement, awakening, and empowerment. Keep walking in trust. Keep stewarding what has been entrusted to you. And remember that every small act of faithfulness echoes in eternity. Heaven chose you for this moment. Step boldly, serve faithfully, and continue to let your life reflect the unseen work God has accomplished within you.